Welcome to Drumdums Top 10 Movies of 2017. Let's do this! Okay, we're gonna need this first. What's up, guys? Welcome to my annual Top 10 for 2017. I was gonna do this last week, but there were a couple of movies that I wanted to see beforehand, and I'm glad I did because one of them actually made the list. Let me take a drink of this first. Okay. My top 15 were so hard to put in order because there were so many great movies, for me anyway, this year. So what I'm going to do is, I don't want to not mention my number 15 through 11. I'm not going to give you any details about these movies. I'm just going to state the names of these movies. And I love these movies. They're all great. So 15 is Gerald's Game. 14 is War of the Planet of the Apes. 13 is It Comes at Night. 12, The Babysitter. And number 11, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. All 5 of those films are top notch. Could not do this list without at least mentioning those. So definitely check those out. And before I get into the top 10, I have a Killer Flicks t-shirt on from my Facebook group, Killer Flicks. If you want a t-shirt, there will be a card up here, and there will also be a link in the info box. A lot of people have been buying these. We have a lot of fun in the group, and as a matter of fact, I did my top 10 and bottom 5 horror movies of 2017 because there were a lot of good horror movies this year. So I'll also post a card to those videos as well. But anyway, on with the countdown. Number 10. Number 10 is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. This is a movie that I literally just watched. Literally just dropped my review for that today, like a couple hours ago. This movie, I saw it about 3 days ago, and it has just sat with me. It's so unique, so refreshing for a horror film. It's an A24 film. It's about this teenager, and it's a vengeance story. He wants to get vengeance for the killing of his father. So 2 years later, a cardiologist played by Colin Farrell takes him under his wing. And the kid is always 2 steps ahead of everybody. This movie is so intoxicating. It is a complete artistic expression from the director from start to finish. You'll see what I'm talking about when you watch this movie. But The Killing of a Sacred Deer, can't recommend it enough. Number 9 is I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. Directed by Macon Blair. I believe this is one of his first movies he's directed. He was also in the movie Green Room. But this movie feels like, you know, something from that line of work, if you know what I mean. But you have fantastic performances and quirky performances by Melanie Kinski, playing the lead character, and also by Elijah Wood. You can't go wrong with Elijah Wood. Everything he does is at least interesting. And this is one of those movies that the first half of it is Melanie Kinski, she is just completely fed up with the world. And you don't really know where this thing's gonna go. And then the second half, it just turns into this like crime, thriller, drama, comedy. There's so many things. It's like a smorgasbord of genres or subgenres thrown into this movie, but it is just fantastic. I love the hell out of this movie. Number 8 is a movie that I avoided for quite a few weeks. It's on Netflix right now. It stars Noomi Rapace. What Happened to Monday? What Happened to Monday really just blew my freaking socks off. Did not expect this. This is one of those movies where you have one actor playing, you know, so many different characters. In this case, Noomi is playing 7 siblings. I think that's the reason why I avoided it, because I thought this was going to be really gimmicky. But I was strapped to my chair, and this movie really just blew my balls off. That's all I can say. I had such a great time with this. It turns into this huge action movie at the end, almost Matrix style. And Noomi Rapace has really cemented herself as an action icon in my book. This movie is so good. It's 2.5 hours long, but honestly, it just flies right by. Number 7 is John Wick 2. The first John Wick I probably would not have put in my top 10 of that year, but this movie is insane. This really does what, like, say, Terminator 2 does for Terminator. It's one of the most satisfying action films I've ever seen, really. And the work that Keanu Reeves puts into this character, it's all on display in John Wick 2. I had so much fun with this. One of my favorite kills was definitely the pencil scene. But if you want just a straight up action movie that's fully on display, no camera trickery, just the camera set back and you just watch two guys just go at it. This movie really does it. It's one of the best of the year. And you know, when you want to compare like American action cinema with like say Asian martial arts cinema, most of the time Asian movies, they kill American cinema because of the actors. They just don't have the talent. But this movie, the actors do have the talent. Keanu Reeves is the real deal, and John Wick 2 is a beautifully done movie. Number 6 is going to be The Devil's Candy. This movie was just such a breath of fresh air. I am a big metal fan, and this movie utilizes metal music, not just like songs, but also like score-wise. You know, there's parts of the score where they just use, you know, the strumming of an electric guitar. And this is one of the most intense horror films of the year by far. And I love the premise of this. This is just the devil, and he wants to come after children. Children are his candy. Very simple plot, but the performances, especially by Ethan Embry in this, are just fantastic. And I'm going to go ahead and say, horror in 2017 topped 2016, and I didn't think that was possible. There were so many good horror movies this year. Number 5, let's get controversial. Alien Covenant. I know that you guys are just going to blast me in the comments. This one and another movie that's on my top 10, I'm going to get a lot of flack for. But you know what? I'm one of those guys. I stand by my opinions on movies. I liked the direction they went with Alien Covenant. They took some of Prometheus, they took some of Alien, they put it together. But really the big surprise of this was the character David. I thought what Michael Fassbender did with David in this movie, really orchestrating everything that happened, was phenomenal. I still to this day do not understand the hatred that some give this movie. But I guess when you have franchises like Alien and other franchises that we're going to talk about, the fans come out of the woodwork, and a lot of times they come for blood. Number 4, another fantastic horror movie. This movie has stayed in my top 10 for most of the year, and that is Raw. Not the biggest fan of cannibal type movies, but this wasn't that for me. It had cannibalism in it, but this was more about characters. This was more about these sisters and the relationship they had with each other, and just, you know, kind of a coming of age story. In Raw, there were so many heartfelt moments, so many moments where I almost teared up. And I think you can have great emotion and you can have, you know, gory horror, and this has both of those. But this movie really stayed with me. This is one of those movies, after you watch it, you can't get it out of your head. Number 3 is gonna be It. It's surprising to me that a movie that I had never seen, the television movie that came out in 1990 with Tim Curry, for some reason, I don't know why, it just always slipped off my radar. I never had the desire to watch it. Maybe because of the length, because it's 2 parts. But from the trailer for this movie, I just knew I had to see this thing. This looked amazing. There's 2 big things that worked for It. One being Bill Skarsgård. If you didn't have a really good actor to play Pennywise, especially going up against Tim Curry, and you don't want to copy Tim Curry, so it's really a risky proposition. Most actors wouldn't even try it. But Bill Skarsgård steps up to the task, makes the character his own, and really just gets under your skin. What he did with Pennywise in this movie, I thought was phenomenal, and it puts it in my top 3. Now, number 2 and number 1, I have went back and forth with these 2. I'm gonna go ahead and say though that my number 2 is Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And to be honest, this is probably even with my number 1, which we'll talk about in just a second. But Star Wars: The Last Jedi, I think, did what a Star Wars movie at this point should do. It had the balls to state its own voice in this franchise. A lot of fans hate this movie because of how strong of an opinion it has on the franchise and the direction that it wanted to go. But at the end of the day, if the story's good, you know, I can avoid everything else outside of that particular story, you know, all the other sequels in the franchise. As a movie alone, I love this because of Luke Skywalker, what they did with his character, the state that he was in, you know, some 40 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. And to me, it was a logical step. It really was. And one of the most satisfying movies of the year by far for me. Can't wait to watch this again. I've already watched it twice and it's still on my mind. But just a little segue, it's funny, in my review for that, you know, it's probably one of the reviews where I got the most dislikes because of this movie. And I even had people tell me I was lying. Like, my opinion was not honest. Like, there's no way I could have liked this movie. that's how crazy Star Wars fans are. It's silly. Even on Twitter, I got into battles about this movie. So what can you do? And now, here we go. My number 1 is gonna be Blade Runner 2049. Wow. First off, I'm a massive fan of the original Blade Runner. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's one of the most influential films of all time. Beautifully done. It's been copied so many times by big movies like The Matrix, like Ghost in the Shell. I mean, those two properties have huge fans of their own, but they owe a lot to the original Blade Runner. Blade Runner 2049, I think, is as good, or almost as good as the original. And I love that you didn't see Deckard until the end of the movie. So really, this movie rests on the shoulders of Ryan Gosling, and I thought he did a great job throughout this whole movie. It is like a 3-hour movie, but it felt like it went by in an hour and a half. My only regret is that I didn't see this in IMAX, because this must have been just spectacular, orgasmic in IMAX. But I just love that whole world, you know? The whole Blade Runner world to me is just one of the most interesting things in cinema. And at face value, most people, when they see a trailer for a movie like this one, or even the first one, if they've never seen it, they expect one thing and they get another. And that's what I love about it. It's not, you know, an action film, really. It's more of an experience. And I love movies that are like that, that are just an experience. Blade Runner 2049 earns its place at the top of this list. So guys, anyway, that's it. That is my top 10 list of the year. It's probably a lot different than other top 10s of the year because there were so many good movies this year. Post down in the comments your top 10 of the year. Stay tuned for my top 10 worst movies of 2017. That's also going to be a really fun one. And also, be sure to come over to Killer Flicks, where we talk horror all day and every day. And on Fridays, we do Free For All Fridays. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Follow me at Drumdums on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and now Stardust, where I give my 30-second reviews. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and Drumdum out.